You're listening to the Infinite Banking Mastery Podcast. Did you know that you could build a tax-free pool of wealth that's liquid and accessible all your life while building your retirement nest egg? Gain full control of your financial future and stop relying on the government and banks. The wealthy have already discovered this wealth-building secret. Now it's your turn to get financially secure without following the conventional wisdom that keeps you in debt to banks. Now here's your host, Valerie LaRocque.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for listening in. Can't believe we're in the middle of November. Fall is just whizzing right on by. I absolutely love the holiday season. This is my favorite time of year. And so I wish it would slow down. I just love this time. And I have much, much to be grateful for this Thanksgiving. One of those things being all of you listeners. I really appreciate you listening. So today I wanted to go into the next section of Nelson Nash's book, Becoming Your Own Banker. That section is titled Creating a Bank Like the Ones You Already Know About. Nelson then goes into a full description of what it would take to own or open a bank like the ones we use today, where we are storing our cash, have our checking and savings accounts, and where we offer people loans. He starts off reminding us how if you want to open a business of any type, that you must first study that business. You want to study all the things that happen with that business so that you fully understand what you're getting into, what it will be like to open the business, all the things that you have to do to be able to open the business, just what you're getting yourself into, making sure that you're comfortable with all of that and that you know what it takes and that you're willing to do it. And then once you decide that you are fully capable of running this type of business and opening it, you, of course, will need capital. Lots and lots of capital. You're going to need a lot of money. An actual bank with a physical location, you're looking at needing roughly $20 million. Now, remember that this book was written a couple of decades ago, over 20 years ago. So it's probably more than $20 million. Now, this is Nelson Nash, who has done all this research and says you're going to need about $20 million to open a bank. So that's a lot of money, and automatically a lot of us are out. We're not able to open the bank in the first place. But if you were, let's just pretend you were able to open this bank, you got 20 mil just sitting around. That's about how much you would need to start a physical bank. Once you have this money, or if you already have this money, you're going to need to have it sitting at some other bank. You're going to need to have it just sitting there liquid, where it will be earning a very low interest rate. And so now that we've gotten this far, the next step would be to obtain a bank charter. Now, these bank charters are very hard to get. Many people would like to open a bank, so you have to apply for the bank charter, and your odds are very low of obtaining one. If you do end up being one of the lucky ones, one of the chosen to receive a bank charter, it will likely have taken many years for you to have obtained this, and so you would have been waiting and waiting for your bank charter, at least certainly longer than you would have wanted to wait. Okay, so now, finally got the bank charter. It's taken me a while to figure out how to open a bank and get the perfect location and have my money sitting there waiting for the approval for the bank charter. It's been a lot of time and effort I've spent waiting and trying to get this bank off the ground, finally ready to do business. So now you've got to advertise. You've got to get people to your bank. You got to spend more money. Up until now, you've been spending a whole lot of money trying to get this thing up and going. And now you have to advertise to people to try to entice them to do business with your bank. And in order to entice them to come to your bank, you're going to have to offer something better than what they are already receiving at their current banks. So higher interest rates on their savings accounts, CDs, those sorts of things. You're going to have to put out there that you'll pay more interest to try to get them over to your side, to your bank. Because if not, why in the world would they want to go through all the hassle of having to switch banks and move over to your bank? Especially when it is so much easier just to continue banking with your current bank, or if you're opening a new account, to start off with a very well-known bank. If you're considering switching banks, moving your money from one bank to the next, that is certainly a hassle. In fact, I have a quick, funny story about that. Back in the day when I had my coffee stand, I became friends with a gal who worked at US Bank. And that's where I would do business with my coffee stand. I was depositing money at US Bank and banking with them. And she would come almost every day, grab a coffee or whenever she was working. And so we became good friends. It's very convenient. She would bring me change if I needed it and all that. She was wonderful. And then one day she ended up switching banks and she went to work for a different bank. And whenever I would see her, she would ask me, "Hey, why are you still over there at US Bank? Why don't you come over to my bank? Like, move your accounts over to my bank." And she said this all the time. Every time I would see her, sometimes we'd have lunch. "You got to move your accounts to my bank." And I'm like, yeah, it's just such a pain. It's just such a pain to move the accounts. And I'm like, "How was it when you moved your account? Was that a lot of work? Was it difficult? You had to wait for things to clear and everything else before you could fully close the account and all that?" And she says, oh, no, I haven't moved my accounts. No, my accounts are still at US Bank because it was such a pain to move the account. And I thought that was pretty hilarious that she had still to move her own accounts and she's trying to convince me to move mine. And she was actually the branch manager of that new bank where she worked. So, hilarious story to me, anyway. And so this really just proves my point, Nelson's point anyway, that people wouldn't just go switching banks or opening new accounts or moving their accounts just because you opened a new bank. They're not going to say, "Oh, well, new bank, I think I should move everything," and suddenly give you business. So you're going to have to incentivize them, market it very well, and reach the people with your message on how awesome of a bank you are and how well you will pay them interest to move their money. Nelson points out at this point, "Do you realize up until now that you've been just dishing out money for years to get your banking business established? You haven't made any money yet. You still haven't made a dollar." A quote from Nelson's book that he actually quotes from a different book called Paper Money by Adam Smith. It says, "A banker cannot make a loan unless he has a deposit. Banks do not lend their money. They lend the money somebody else has left there." Nelson then says practically no one is aware that when you make a deposit of $1,000 at your favorite bank, they can now lend $10,000 as a result of your deposit. It is called the fractional reserve lending system, which we've talked about. That is, they are creating money out of thin air. It is all predicated on the theory that everyone is not going to withdraw their money at the same time. So then he also talks about a bank, First National Bank of Midland, Texas, that went out of business in the 1980s. Nelson had read about what was going on with that bank, and he said it was evident that the board of directors had taken out loans and they weren't paying them back. The bank had a lot of non-performing loans. Now, had these people been paying back their loans with interest, the bank would not have come crashing down. They would have been fine. Now, I talk a lot about paying yourself interest or paying yourself back with interest, as this is a key action to treating yourself like a banker, like an honest banker. Acting like, "Well, this is my policy, this is my money, and I don't need to pay it back, I can do whatever I want," can cause you to destroy or cannibalize your policies, which you don't want to do. You want them to be healthy, whole life policies to support your banking system. You don't want to ignore the loans and just continuously always take out as much cash as you can every single time, ignore the loan, and just borrow without ever replenishing the funds. You're going to end up being frustrated down the road when you are looking at your accounts and say, "Why don't I have more cash in there?" Because every time you get a chance, you're borrowing money out. You want to replenish it and be excited instead as the years go by and say, "Wow, gosh, I have a lot of cash in there." It really replenishes fast because in addition to growing every time you make a premium payment, that's your available balance growing every time you make a premium payment, it also is increasing every time you make a loan repayment. And so you watch your balance replenish very quickly for the next thing you will need that account for. Now, you, of course, have the flexibility to do whatever you want, but you're just going to be much happier with your system. If you treat yourself like an honest banker and pay yourself back with interest, you're going to be happier with your overall system, your banking policies, your whole life policies. So, Nelson gives this very long and detailed description in his book about what it looks like to try to open a physical bank like the one you have your checking account in, all just to say, isn't it amazing that we can actually accomplish the creation of our own banking system by using this century-old product? He's referring to participating or dividend paying whole life insurance with a mutual company, because whole life insurance has been around over 200 years and is a tried and true product, as he states it. He points out that the problem really is that too few people know about this product, know that it works or how it works, and how to use it, including the home office people, the people that work for the life insurance company. I will add, too, that there is really only a handful of companies that actually attend the annual Infinite Banking Nelson Nash Institute think tank. And because they're that supportive, they want to be there, they want to help us, they want to answer questions, they send top executives, actuaries to our event to answer questions and to just be a presence there. But certainly not every mutual whole life company or very many large whole life companies are coming there and trying to be a part of this event and helping us with their products. So there are a few who we love and that are really supportive and are really great and have a really strong product and strong guarantees, which is great because you're really looking for strong guarantees. Since we don't know what the dividend's going to do, you want to have a strong guarantee with your life insurance company. So anyway, back to what I was saying. Nelson is basically saying, why would we go out and try to remake the wheel, or in this case, attempt to go through an extensive and incredibly expensive process of opening a regular bank, when the perfect product for this purpose has already been created and has a nice long track record of over 200 years. He says all the ingredients are already there in place. All you have to do is understand what is going on in such insurance plans and tap into the system. That's all you have to do, is tap into the system. And why wouldn't you once you learn about this? The strategy is simply amazing, and there's really nothing like it. So if you're feeling ready to tap into the system and begin your own whole life policy, if you would like to work with me, please reach out to me at Valerie@alphaomegawealth.com. I would love to meet you. And for next week, we will just be continuing going through Nelson's book. So I'll be going to the next section. So I just want to thank you for listening in. I hope you have a really wonderful week. We will continue where we left off next week. Take care.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.